All right, do we have any need for executive?
Dave Mills said yes, there's no matter to
Yes.
discuss.
So just the one personnel matter?
That's all that I have. Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? All right.
Make most we go into executive session for one personnel matter.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any need to amend the agenda?
I mentioned a couple things.
Any corrections, anything on the minutes from last meeting? Nothing? Okay. Any questions on the orders?
On the Depot Hill construction, is that to do with the salt shed or is that with the sewer pump station?
That would be the pump station. That's what we use the Depot Hill phrase for.
Okay, yeah, I knew it was one, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we just FYI, that gets billed on progress.
Yeah.
And we've just submitted today a request for about $195,000 back from the state through our loan for that project.
Then there was the LED lights at the transfer station, $1,000. Is that something new or?
It is. We've got that new roof there, as you know. And Wayne Guyard, the attendant, thought that given that maybe 6 months of the transfer station's Wednesdays are in darkness, that it might be helpful to have lights, not only a better light in the shed, but also exterior to point people to the compactors and have a safety factor involved.
They're probably the most economical light you can get anyway.
I believe they are over time.
Anything else on the orders?
Just as I do every time, we just sent $2 million to the schools.
Saw that,
Well, no,
worth noting, yes.
Yeah.
If I slid that cable over here. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's usually used by Kelly. So that'd be fine, yeah.
Yeah, John.
Would you like to have a seat too?
No,
I'm getting excited.
I know.
Something to do.
Yep. I'm just trying to get this one down.
I did.
I'll make sure you do nothing.
At least you didn't sign it twice like Joe did last time.
I'll catch it on the way back.
Yeah.
There. Yep.
I don't want to remember.
Jake, we missed one. Now we're even.
Bottom one there.
The bottom one.
You see my numbers on, I don't.
Someone else did too. Isn't there only 3 signatures on this one?
This one,
Yeah, you did, Joe.
Joe misses
Did
one.
Joe miss that one too?
No, right there.
He's making up for last time.
Top one, you already did it, I think, didn't you? Yeah, you did.
Yeah, no, just Joe
That's
needed to
for Joe.
sign that one.
Joe,
I guess we got
Joe missed another one.
Joe missed that
Did you get another one?
another one. Yep.
one. Moving right along.
All right.
There's another one.
Dave, if you would just push that to the right-hand side of your desk, I'll collect all that at the end of.
Well, I was piling them
Yeah,
here.
that's fine. Yep.
That work?
So I have done.
Good.
What happened when you hit this on time?
I've set the trap again.
All right, town manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Casella has completed work erecting the concrete block walls of the salt shed structure and is now preparing to start assembling the steel and fabric roof, which they hope to have done by the end of the month. We've made inquiries about the width of the vehicle opening, and we have emphasized several times that we cannot have anything less than the designed 14-foot door opening with or without the hanging door being present. We've talked about a number of options to make sure that that happens. So that'll be the bottom line as far as we're concerned on that. So stay tuned. The town of Chittenden has scheduled a public hearing on February 22nd at 7 o'clock regarding some minor adjustments to the location of Bisbee and Lead Mine roads. It appears that there's no plan at the moment to reclassify West Road Extension as had been earlier discussed. You can remember that it was West Creek Road that we were most interested in, since that's how the town accesses its water sources up on Mount Niquacket. So I will, even though I don't think this Bisbee and Lead Mine Road hearing impact having had exposure to an asymptomatic COVID-19 positive person. And we will continue to be in touch with Chad, make sure he gets all the support he might need. And we'll also work with Greg, who will kind of be stepping up as the leader on the crew for these next few days. Chad Hewitt from Sullivan and Powers will be here via Zoom on Wednesday, February 17th, our next select board meeting, to present the audit findings. And finally, the town offices will be closed Monday, February 15th, in observance of President's Day.
All right, thank you. Any select board member remarks?
Did you find out if the school bus is still going through that bridge or not?
If I had a gun, I'd use it right now against myself. I'm sorry. I know that I had the answer and I just was failing to pull it up again. I'll tell you tomorrow morning what the answer is, and I'll send an email around if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, should we maybe put a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit instead of 20 to just?
I agree.
Time being?
We can definitely have advisory speed limits at any number, and that'll get your attention with a bright yellow or orange. It's not legally binding, but it's a good recommendation that most people with.
John, how about if we put it right in the middle of the entrance? See it.
Well, hang something down that they have to slow down so it doesn't
Yeah.
smash their windshield. I'm just kidding, but,
I agree.
cause if you go through at 5, it's, the whole bridge doesn't go crazy, but most people are flying through there even at 20 is, I think, too fast. I mean, we gotta do something to preserve it as long as we can.
And I did talk to Chad after the last meeting, asking him about recommendations about running boards, as well as the possibility of some kind of other traffic calming speed hump type of situation. So I'll follow up with him when he's available, and then Chief Warfel also about some speed feedback at that spot.
Historically, they've always had driving lane boards there, or running boards
Yeah.
on that. And they did have them in there years ago, but they took them out for.
Now, are you talking about,
Last meeting, yeah.
when you talk about running boards, you're talking about the boards
The wheel
on the
track.
Go
exterior
lengthwise,
or on the actual wheel treads?
On the floor of the bridge, they had runners.
where the tires go.
Where you intend the wheels to go?
About-
Yes.
about
Yeah, and they took them out, 5, 6 years ago, probably? I don't know why.
I don't know why.
There was some problem with the deterioration of the deck, and they reboarded
Slow
it.
down.
But I guess they didn't put back the running board, but that would make some good sense, because people obviously then get concerned that they might come over and off the boards, and that a four-stroke drives slower.
Well,
And it also supports, as you say,
Parts of the
when
bridge.
you've got boards going in both directions, then
it's
it's more
a
stable.
lot stronger.
A lot stronger.
Now, the
That's
Gorham
minimal cost compared
Bridge,
to what you're gonna.
What you're going, and to prolong the expense as long as we can.
Exactly.
Either that or close the bridge, and people aren't gonna like that, so.
I should know, but I can't say for sure if the Gorham Bridge and the Cooley Bridge has wheel track plank in it. I almost think it do.
Cooley does.
They do.
Cooley does, yeah.
I know Cooley does.
I mean, most of those, Syndicate Road Bridge has them.
Yeah.
They
Right.
need replacing, but it has them.
Years ago, Sam Carrera worked on this one down
Sam did
here.
put in those.
And I supplied all the plank for the floor and the runners.
Because you've got those nice hemlock boards, correct?
Years ago, I supplied the whole thing when Sam
Do you
Carrera
still-
worked
Do you
on it.
still generate those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we know where to go.
Well, I don't know. You have to get state approval and all that crap,
I
but
don't think for.
I don't think so. Now we're doing it on our own.
No,
I
the
wouldn't
president,
ask the state. I just do it.
the preservation people, do they have to get involved? Any work is
Yeah,
done on
they'll
it?
give us money.
Well, if and when we do this big rehab that is in the offing at some point, I guess we'll have to check that off on that box. But for now, we're just talking about maintenance of the
Trying
deck
to
floor.
maintain it, yeah.
yeah.
I always had them in before, so I don't know why it'd make a difference now.
I don't either.
Yeah,
We're just replacing what was there only a little bit late, that's all.
a lot late.
I didn't have the money back then.
That's right.
So I was noticing that more and more towns are making a decision one way or the other to opt in or not with, with the cannabis. Being able to have set up, a business or sell. And I know when I reached out to Lyle Jepson, we didn't have the company that was looking at setting up in Rutland County wanted like a 20,000 square foot building with it's like very specific, like something that we didn't have. And I know that we decided to table it this year. But I just think it's worth probably getting a discussion going. And I don't know if anyone else is interested in kind of like forming a committee with me and at least getting a lot of more information on it. So we can make an informed decision.
First of all, we might be able to get some kind of talking points, pluses and minuses from VLCT, because I'm sure they're getting lots of towns inquiring about it. They might have kind of a primer on, things to consider when you're contemplating that. So
Right.
I'll see if I can come up with that anyway.
All right, yeah. It'd be nice for us to know where we're going one way or the other, so. That's all I have. All right, are there any public comments? No public comments tonight?
Which is quiet.
I know, I was expecting that, but okay.
Wait a moment.
All right. Well, let's. All right, we'll skip over to new business then, because I think there's some people that are here via
Yes.
Zoom. All right, so let's see, why don't we do the presentation of the proposed local hazard mitigation plan?
I'll just introduce Stephanie Bourque. She's in the middle on the left, waving her hand there. And I'll just start by saying Stephanie's worked with our planning or our team for several sessions and lots of work and drafting and redrafting. And she's here to present us with the quote unquote final draft of our group, which we're presenting at this meeting. And then we will again on February 17th as required to accept public input, public comments on the plan. So take it away, Stephanie.
Sure, thanks, John. So again, I'm Stephanie Bourque, planner at the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, and I've been assisting your planning team in completing the update to the Pittsford Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. Basically, I've facilitated their meetings and I've provided technical assistance to ensure that your plan contains all of the federally required contents. I'd like to start tonight by just acknowledging all the time and effort of the planning team members, who included Kevin Blow, Jason Davis, Chad Ujer, John Haverstock, Tom Hooker, Helen McKinley, and Chief Warfel. So without their contributions, your plan update would not have been possible. And they've put in much time and effort. We kicked off this project in July. So that gives you some sense of the time involved in preparing the update. So on behalf of the planning team, I'm presenting their final work product tonight. And as its name implies, the focus of the plan is hazard mitigation, which should not be confused with emergency response. This is not a response plan. The point of mitigation is to reduce the severity of hazard impacts so that any response or recovery efforts are minimized. So think of mitigation actions as long-term investments in your community to make it more resilient. The local hazard mitigation plan is a 5-year plan that ultimately requires FEMA approval. And so what's being presented tonight is an update of your 2016 plan. So this plan in its basic form is intended to assist the town in identifying all natural hazards facing the community, ranking them according to local vulnerabilities, and developing strategies to reduce impacts from your highest risk natural hazards. It's important for me to note for you folks tonight that the plan does not address man-made or technological hazards, nor does it address infectious disease or invasive species. So this is not an all hazards plan. This is just a natural hazards focused plan. So you should have a draft available to you. The plan opens with a brief introduction and statement of purpose, which includes a list of the benefits of mitigation planning. And the purpose section also includes a sentence that I'd like to call your attention to. It reads, once adopted, this plan is not legally binding. Instead, it outlines goals and actions to reduce the degree of injury and inconvenience to the townspeople and their private and municipal property. So I just want to make sure folks understand at the outset that, this is not some kind of contractual obligation between the town and FEMA or the town and Vermont Emergency Management. This is really just a local planning tool for you folks to accomplish some mitigation goals, which are articulated later in the plan. So the community profile follows in section 3, and that's really just intended to give the reader an overview of relevant features that make the community more vulnerable or maybe more resilient to natural hazards. For those of you who are familiar with your town plan, some of this information will look very familiar. That's where it's drawn from, but it's not intended to, duplicate the contents of a town plan. So it's a much more abbreviated community profile. The process undertaken by your planning team to complete the plan update is outlined in section 4. And it's in section 4 that we also describe any changes in land use or development and mitigation priorities since your 2016 plan. Ultimately, the planning team concluded that changes in development have not made the community more vulnerable to natural hazards, and that actions that you've taken since 2016 have made Pittsford more prepared and less vulnerable to future natural hazard impacts. Section 5 of the plan describes the approach the planning team took to identify and rank your highest risk natural hazards. This was a section of the plan that took a considerable amount of work, and following the assessment, the team agreed that the highest risk natural hazards should include thunder and tropical storms with associated flooding, high winds, as well as severe winter storms and drought. So I know that I just said that the plan doesn't directly address invasive species. However, there is an inset on page 9 regarding the October 2020 confirmed detection of the emerald ash borer in West Rutland. This detection made Pittsford a town within the confirmed infested area for emerald ash borers, so we felt it was appropriate to at least flag that in the plan. Anything that you do to really address that potential hazard would be done in a document outside of this plan. So with your vulnerabilities defined, the planning team then went on to develop the mitigation strategy. And it's section 6 of the plan that describes the town's mitigation goals, your community's unique set of capabilities to accomplish mitigation activities. And it concludes with those mitigation actions or projects that the team believes are reasonable and practical for the town to implement. And I want to stress those terms, reasonable and practical. These are actions that they feel are in line with other community objectives and are something that can be undertaken with the capabilities that you have. A table of the actions starts on page 22, and I would encourage you to pay special attention to the proposed mitigation actions, as I believe the planning team did a good job of recommending actions that address the vulnerabilities that are described in section 5. So I think there's a good connection between those two sections. And then finally, the approach to maintaining this 5-year plan over time is described in section 7, and it includes a table on page 29 to track your progress on an annual basis. So that's really a very kind of brief, comprehensive overview of the plan and its contents. And so to finish up with this update process, the plan has been posted for a final round of public comment. Comments will be accepted through February 17th. So it sounds like John is looking to maybe revisit this at your February 17th meeting to assemble any comments he may receive on the plan, either from the public, the Planning Commission, or the Select Board. And so anybody interested in commenting on the plan can find a copy of it on the town's website, as well as the Rutland Regional Planning Commission's website. And you should direct your comments to the town manager, John Haverstock, either by email or phone. So once the planning team, digests any comments received, they'll determine how to address them in the final version of the plan. And if the comments are significant, that really, maybe alter how, vulnerabilities were assessed, or which mitigation actions are proposed. So if there are significant shifts based on public comments, then a revised plan would again be shared with the Select Board and Planning Commission, so that everybody's in agreement with the changes made prior to submitting the plan to Vermont Emergency Management for preliminary approval. So once the plan receives preliminary approval from the state, no further changes to the document can be made. it will be returned to the town to be adopted by the select board. And at that point, it will be submitted to FEMA for final approval. And it's the FEMA final approval date that will start your 5-year window. So hopefully I've provided you folks with kind of a good overview of the plan and what it's going to take to finish up the update process. I'm available to answer any questions tonight, but what I'd recommend is that comments on the plan itself really be directed to John so that they can be assembled in a comprehensive manner to be addressed by the planning team.
So if based on comments in the next 2 weeks caused a change or any kind of amendment to the plan, would it need another 2-week period after that? No.
No, not necessarily. So just to be clear, there's no statutory public comment period required for this plan. The meetings that we've had at the midpoint of the plan development and at the final stage, including a 2-week public comment period, were part of the outreach strategy developed by the planning team. So every community can basically define their own public outreach strategy. So the public comment period is something that the planning team for Pittsford felt was important to try to help solicit community participation in the plan, basically the planning process.
And I'll just let you know, we did forward this to Mark Winslow for circulation before the last planning commission meeting. And I haven't heard anything yet, but we remain open to comments at any time.
Yeah.
Until the 17th anyway.
Okay. Great.
And we did post a newspaper notice, a flyer around town and again on the website soliciting opinion and linking or making the draft available.
Okay.
Sure. So all of those steps taken are documented in section 4 of the plan. There's, I think, table 2 or 3 lays out the planning process. Yeah, table 2, the plan development process, kind of lists all the critical dates and actions taken throughout basically from July through tonight. And it'll carry us through to final submittal to Vermont Emergency Management for preliminary approval. I think if you read through those details, you'll see that we've cast a pretty wide net to try to involve as many community stakeholders as possible, and at least being aware of the plan's development and drafts for review.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
I'd just like to thank Steph. She put a lot of time into
Yes,
this.
yes.
An awful lot of time.
I know, thank you. This looks great. It looks very thorough.
You're very welcome. It was a great planning team to work with. You guys were super engaged and were able to provide a lot of great information for the plan. So it was a pleasure.
And it kind of gives a good roadmap as to what tasks the town manager, whoever he or she may be, and police chief and highway foreman, whoever they might be in the future, a roadmap of things to do over time to improve our resilience.
All right. Again, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. All set? I'm going to
Yes.
sign off, guys. Thank you. Good
All
night.
right.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, I guess next we'll go into consider proposed acquisition of Plains Road frontage relating to Dollar General development.
Yes, just as an introduction, David Cooper is here. He represents the developers. And he had been in touch with Gary Kupferer about how best the developer could move forward in straightening out to a T that Plains Road Route 7 intersection. And it seems that this will involve some frontage that Quarry has owned on the northeast corner of that intersection. And the question had come up, how best to give that property or to acquire that property, and who should be the owner of the property to interact with the developer as the developer moves forward with plans to reconstruct that intersection. And so Dave, I think you can take it from there, right?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us. So you guys are all familiar with this project, I suspect. It's at 40 Plains Road, right down the road from where you guys are. It's gone from holder to holder, but I think we are moving forward with the project. And yeah, the question came up, how exactly is this intersection going to be improved? If you remember, we're proposing to straighten it so that it hits Route 7 at more of a right angle, 90 degrees. And we're also adding in a right turn lane, northbound right turn lane. I think Abby, if you need to refresh your recollection, she can put up a plan to show you the triangle of property we're talking about. It's about a 0.02 acre piece that Mr. Quarry owns. The idea would be to transfer that to the town, because ultimately it's going to be, the town's right away there. So thanks, Abby. She's circling sort of a pink section, that triangle section that would be conveyed. Originally, we had talked about having Mr. Quarry deed the property to us, the developer, and then the developer somehow transferring it to the town. And as we thought about it, that seemed a bit cumbersome, and it probably makes more sense just to have Mr. Quarry deed that directly to the town. And then, of course, the developer would, incur the costs associated with that. We would incur the costs and would be responsible for the improvements themselves. And then once it's done, it's the town's right away. Do with it as you will. So really, the only question is if you folks agree with me and Gary that makes the most sense, and then I suppose you folks can decide how best to authorize someone to work with us to make sure that happens in the way that makes the most sense.
And I will point out that, again, Gary Kupfer had looked over that proposal, discussed it with Attorney Cooper, and recommended that, in fact, his strong recommendation is that the deed be directed from Quarry to the town.
So this is something we need to take action on.
I think the board would be well advised to approve this, the process of accepting the conveyance of that small parcel from Quarry.
So-
Got a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay.
No, who are we going to have? Is John going to be our
This is the second piece of
designated
that.
person?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it needs to be explicit. Usually I do act on behalf of the town, and that's fine. So David, it sounds like we've given you the thumbs up, so I'll look for any kind of paperwork you may have for us either to sign or to help you with the recording of, et cetera, down the road.
That's great. Yeah, I think Quarry will be the one signing the deed.
Yeah, makes sense.
And we'll figure it out. It should be fairly straightforward. If any hiccups come up, I'll be in touch, John. I really appreciate it, and thank you for all your time. Any other questions or?
Yeah, what's your timeline now that you're moving forward?
That's a great question that I can't answer.
Okay.
People with more knowledge of the project than I have are making those decisions. My best understanding is that things are moving forward, and we're dealing with construction seasons and the like. But at least we're better off than we were a year ago when it wasn't quite clear whether this project was actually going to happen. So.
All right.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Good night. All right, so back to old business. So town meeting preparations and logistics.
Yeah, a few topics to discuss. First being the town reports dedication event. In the past, as you may recall, we've had a standalone kind of reception for people being honored in the town report. And given COVID and the desire not to fill a room with people, even friendly people who are happy to be together for this uplifting event, maybe there's alternatives that we could consider. For example, instead of an in-person meeting on the morning of publication, which is the 17th, maybe we could add this as a item for the select board meeting, inviting those people being honored along with the press to attend via the Zoom options so that they can at least carry publicity, the newspapers can, and we can thank the people to whom we're dedicating the report, the people and the families. That might be one option. Certainly, it's been the tradition at town meeting to read aloud those dedications and hear a round of applause. We could still do that at the beginning of our informational hearing as well on March 1st. So we could do either or both in lieu of an in-person gathering.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
What are you thinking?
I would say all of the above would be
So Dave was going.
good.
Okay, hybrid of what you're talking. We have the Zoom meeting, but we as a select board come here on the 17th with the two people. I think that would, I mean, this is kind of a big deal. And I mean, so we have plenty of room here for two guests.
Well, the problem is usually there's more than just the honorees. It's the families and friends, for
Well,
example.
I understand, but they could be on Zoom and
And the people
the
here.
two people here. That's what I mean,
That was the first thought that we had, but then when upon thinking about it, we thought, okay, for example, Carol Johnston works at the daytime. Maybe she wouldn't even come, even if we did the event in the morning. That was, again, the thought being that if you have the five of us plus a reporter or two, or maybe they're participating.
reporters can be on Zoom. I'm just talking the two
Yeah.
designees.
If that's how you feel, I'm happy to.
Well, I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it that way,
I agree with that. I think.
to maintain the tradition
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason.
with some Zooming.
Yeah, I think you can do a combination.
Are you free on Wednesday, February 17th at 9 a.m. for about 40 minutes, 40 minutes?
I'll be there, guys. I'll be there.
Perfect, Liz,
Tell me so I can
perfect.
Put it in my calendar.
Okay,
I think that would be nice.
Well, good.
I think it's, you
Yeah.
know,
I mean,
the other ways just seem too, for what this is, just too impersonal.
Could get lost. Okay,
Yeah,
I feel you're right.
it is.
okay, good. Speaking assignments for the informational hearing. In the past, we've broken it into several sections. There's usually the chair who does some kind of welcome remarks. There's the general fund presentation, which in the past, different selectmen have handled it. Even I handled it last year, I believe. And highway has been handled by Joe with water and sewer remarks from Clarence. So I guess the questions are, who would like to participate and in what roles in the informational sessions introducing the budgets? Again, we're not having much of a discussion. We're taking questions and putting forth the budgets. We're not having any votes.
Right.
But the question is, who would like to participate and in what roles?
well, you did the budget last year. You did a good job, I thought.
Thank you.
You
So
seem to be up, you're really up on it, so.
so it'll be the five of us here, right? And that's pretty much it. So,
But there's no need, again, theoretically, there's no a need for you to be here in the room. If you'd like to participate remotely, you could.
well, but
I'd rather be here.
I'd rather be, I think it's nice for the five of us to be here.
On the front side.
United,
And all I'm at is like throwing Clarence in. Is there anybody else here who's knowledgeable about the sewer and
he's the chair of the Water and
Share
Sewer
the water,
Commission.
so.
You'd probably be the
Vice
best.
chair, but I'm not gonna speak.
You're vice chair, but you can't speak. Okay. All right. Well, no, I didn't know.
We'd have room for Clarence.
So Clarence, yeah, so if it's just Clarence,
Okay,
be 6 of us here.
okay. And in terms of welcome remarks, the chair typically would do something like that. So that'd be Alicia. Joe, are you still interested in performing that?
No problem, we'll just go over what,
Yeah, we'll have our usual chat beforehand to prepare, as we will with everybody who's doing it.
probably not gonna be quite as same as usual, but we'll do
Right.
the best we can.
Yep. We'll have to remember short attention spans on Zoom.
Well, yeah.
Tight, short and tight.
Yeah.
So, and what is the protocol for taking questions? Or are we not?
I think after each article is presented in terms of the budgets, you can open the floor for questions and then.
And I guess it'll be Liz's job at that
So
point,
actually,
right?
that was my question as well, because I know for the debate they did with the reps that they sort of had people type questions. I'm just worried about,
Oh.
depending on volume of people,
Right.
whether or not we're gonna have a bunch of people like, hey, I have a question, you know what I mean?
Okay,
So really, it's up to you guys, and you guys tell me what to do, and I'll do it. I can mute people and have people type in that they wanna ask a question, and they can speak it, or they can just type it. So we got options.
Is it
maybe
possible?
that's something to point out early in the welcome.
Yeah.
You're gonna have two options.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you have a question.
And we're gonna need
Type it up.
everybody muted.
Well,
Otherwise, they're
can't,
gonna-
well, can't you mute everyone until
I can
it is
mute
time
everybody,
for
but
questions?
everybody can unmute themselves.
Oh,
which
they
we've had
can?
Problems in the past with that, where,
Oh,
because I tried really hard.
I know. I thought you had a little bit more control on this side as far as,
I wish. Because then if you can mute people indefinitely, you can also unmute them, which would be,
Yeah. All right, so yeah, we'll make sure we mention that.
We can have some kind of introduction about
Yeah,
technology.
Self-muted and raise your
yeah,
hand.
I know.
Well, yeah, raise your hand or send in your question
Right.
exactly.
and Liz can read the question to us. I
We
think that's the way to do it.
probably have no way of knowing what participation we're gonna get through this. I mean, it's kind of all.
Who knows?
You have no idea.
Unprecedented as.
It is,
You
I
might
mean,
have 6 people, you might have.
it could be
4.
twice as many.
Well, yeah,
people that
6
come.
You don't know.
Well, yeah, you don't know.
It'll be interesting.
It's one of the reasons why we're gonna talk with Comcast about boosting our signal so we can handle a larger load if it shows up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the explanation, Liz, when you say you can accept written comments, are they typed up through the Zoom platform or do we give them your personal email?
What do you mean?
If somebody's wanting to ask a question remotely and type it in.
So we have
Type it in.
Across the bottom, you can,
Butch actually, he can also raise his hand, as you see like right there. He's his little
Yeah.
hand raised.
Okay,
So you also have the chat option available to us out here in electronic land where you can do questions. That works really well.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Those notes
Okay.
that we can raise our hands. We have these hands we can raise and she can see those hands and control that very, very well.
okay.
Among other things. So yeah, it's a little flexible. I think people coming in on Zoom are gonna probably pretty much know the procedure.
Yeah.
Every
wow.
every kid in the district.
3/4 out.
Hopefully.
I know. I didn't know about that little raise your hand thing.
That's actually
Well, I
one.
didn't know, I knew the chat, I knew the chat thing was there.
So just go to participants and says, raise your hand and you click on that. and
Okay.
Up comes your blue hand or yellow hand, whichever version you've got.
All
Yeah.
right.
You just chat and then Kelly and I then, if she has questions.
Yeah.
Oh,
So for people though that would want to actually ask a question.
Yeah.
All they have to do is raise their hand and,
And then we'll just
or
choose.
they could say in chat, can I speak?
Okay.
And then you would be able to have a
then you
moment.
can click on them and
So you
let
don't have a
them
bunch of.
Yeah. Okay.
They don't
That's a
have,
great idea. From what I've said, I mean, we had about 450 people on Zoom for the governor's budget.
Oh my God.
And it was very orderly because the person running the meeting controlled the mute button.
Right. And I can, if somebody starts talking when they're not really allowed,
Just mute them.
I can mute them, and if they don't stop, there is the option of removing someone if they're being inappropriate, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So we do have options.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, you're going to be security, Louise.
Like old Pat Shelby, right, Butch?
Yeah, you're going to be just as you. Yeah,
Joe remembers that.
yeah.
They won't even have to declare whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, will they?
No, they won't have to declare anything, Joe.
And my final question was, how did you feel about the draft letter to the editor?
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I think
Is that
so.
acceptable for you?
Yeah.
all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll shoot for the 24th. That'd be about a week.
Week ahead of time.
Okay, good. That's all I had for
Yeah, it's
that.
coming right up,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's flying.
Oh,
Here we are, it's gonna be the first week of February, guys,
Right.
soon.
yeah.
So,
Butch, did you have something?
yeah, I do, Madam Chair. Can I want to do a little public comment right now. I'm sort of a little late getting on, but
Yep.
may I?
Yes.
So just some news for you in general. We started work on the transportation bill. I think we'll have it seemingly firmed up as far as the municipal stuff goes by town meeting, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised from the proposal we have in front of us. It's not firm enough yet to give you any hope, but it's way better than last year's contributions to the town, John. As you know, you lost your structures grant, you lost a lot of your better roads grants and those type of things. And there's a move to refund all that stuff in spades. So we're headed that direction, and I think it will help the town considerably. We'll try to make up for what you lost from last year.
That would be nice.
The renovations are finally underway at the academy for the East Cottage. They have a contractor. It's about almost $1.7 million over there. So that's good news. There's proposals in this year's capital budget to do a study of looking at the future of the academy. And I think it has a brighter future now than it did at the end of last session. And also even doing more work on putting a roof over the firing range, try to quiet it down a little more and keep the water out of it. So those are all positive things, I think, for the town.
Thank God, quiet.
Hey,
Yeah.
Butch, would it be helpful for me to send you an email describing the extra capacity we have at the wastewater treatment plant to handle?
That would be great. And I talked to the commissioner about that. But that would be really great because, and they have a governance committee over there. Talk to them about that also. And yeah, that would be great. And I could forward that on, John.
Thank you.
Okay. And then lastly, your marijuana piece, selling retail sales of marijuana. I would encourage all of you to read the bill. It's Act number 164 in the 2020 session. It has a ton of information on it and what's going to happen. And VLTC has developed a model question for if you ever want to vote on it. And I'm not sure how it reads yet, but we're a long way from implementing this. So you have a little time. Some of the highlights, there has to be a nominating committee formed. That hasn't been formed yet. And then a control board picked from the nominating committee. And then from the control board, there has to be an advisory committee. And then it all goes to rulemaking. So we're a year away, maybe, or so. And then there's fees involved, and those have to come to the legislature. So it would be next session minimum before we even look at fees. And there's also a provision in there that you may have a cannabis control commission within the town of Pittsford, so you can control your own destiny in that. So that bill is full of information, and I hope you'll take the time to see it. A lot of it's pretty granular, but it's worth the read, and then you really get informed.
I'll circulate it in the next packet.
Awesome, thank you.
It's only 102 pages, John. And you don't,
51 if I do it two-sided, Butch.
yeah.
Thanks, Butch.
Okay, guys, thank you.
All right, village burn ordinance.
Yes, in tonight's packet, there's a email from Brad Keith, who said he had some talks with Chief Hooker about the select board's response to his initial proposal. And he has proposed sort of a counter proposal. And I'd be more than happy to get back to Brad with any input, but he basically writes as follows. I spoke with Tom Hooker about the board's suggestion, and we're thinking of adding a 3-day weekend, Friday through Sunday. I'd like to see the first weekend in February, as it's normally cold with snow on the ground. That alleviates some of the smoke complaints, as most people windows will be closed. Also, I expressed that I'm content with leaving the 10-day windows as they are. However, would it be possible to change the wording? So instead of saying the first Friday through the first Sunday, we could just go to fixed dates, such as May 1st through 10th, or something along those lines. It would make communicating this much easier on his end. He said he might try to call in tonight, but if not, we can follow up with him. So if that's something that sounds agreeable, I can try to draft something up and we can look it over at a future meeting. And if you like what we've written, then we can have the 1 or 2 public hearings that would be required to amend.
Yeah, I told them that we would have to have the hearing on it. And this I think would, and the whole thing comes down, there was one problem that he ran into. And this would alleviate that problem, by having one in February.
Mhm.
Would make it much easier for him. It eliminates the smoke during in the summertime, which was the big problem.
Mhm.
So he was happy with.
It was written. Go ahead.
So does that add the extra week in the summer, the extra days in the summer? Like, no, so you're just strictly the February.
Yep, strictly 1 3-day in February. But it doesn't affect the town as far as permits.
Right. It's just the village, right?
It's just the village.
I guess what I'd like to see is that be 4 days, Friday through Monday. Because again, you've got people that work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, have Monday off. So that gives them,
Well, you could have it before, it doesn't,
I'm just saying
it would be one weekend in February.
Friday through Monday. That's what I would,
You could do a Friday and Monday, that, I don't think that would be a big problem,
I-
because chances are if they're burning a big pile, it might be smoldering come Monday anyways.
Or are you
Right.
thinking,
That was my comment, because you have fixed dates.
Yeah.
They may come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah,
People, you're right, people are working.
yeah,
right.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
yeah. No, they should have one of those off.
One of those.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And if they need it that bad, they're gonna take a day off to do it.
Or they're just gonna do it and fire department gets called. You know,
Exactly.
That's not advisable, ladies.
No.
well, no, I'm just saying that,
There are.
but if you make it a little bit easier for them, it's less likely to happen.
Just don't take advantage of it.
Exactly. So that would be my only suggestion is make it
And that's not true.
a 4-day weekend type thing.
I'll draft something up.
Sounds good.
all right, so I guess we're closing out the meeting to then open up as the liquor board.
Yeah, we recess it, right?
Yeah.
Recess, right?
So we're not
Close
closed.
out, recess.
No, it's different.
Makes a
You
difference.
gotta say recess.
Yeah.
Recessing.
Pretend we're going out to the playground.
Yeah, no, recess.
All right, so we have, so is Proctor Pittsford, that one got added, is that also second class?
That's a first and third class liquor license and a outside consumption permit,
Okay,
so it's different.
Make a motion, to accept them.
Well, if you want to accept them, I'll just tell Kelly for the record, we have
Right.
submissions from Sugarwood Investments, DBA Kamutas, for a second class liquor license renewal, a second class liquor license renewal for Heath's Country Store, Inc., a second class liquor license renewal for RL Valley doing business as Maple Fields, Valley as VALLEE, and finally Proctor Pittsford Country Club, a first and third class liquor license renewal plus an outside consumption permit.
Make a motion, to accept them all.
I'll second that. I have one question. I know what first class, second class, what's third class?
We can look and see. Let me take a
I'm just curious. I mean, first class is,
It's tobacco, I believe.
oh, third class is tobacco?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that 1 year we give them the outside consumption. The state gave them everything except the parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
I think they've straightened that out. So this was kind of funny. Drink every place but the parking lot.
Yeah,
Just one lawn.
yeah.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That quickly.
Oops.
No,
Probably time to start thinking about Memorial Day and Pittsford Day.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll maybe have better news by then.
Not really.
Oh,
I don't know.
doesn't get better very fast. Wow, you keep hearing, oh, it's getting better, but I don't see that it is. You hear more and more people quarantined.
There were 129 cases today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three more deaths.
Yeah,
Seems to be taking right off.
yeah.
John, I'm going to send you an email with the information that I'm going to need.
Okay. Sounds good. I think that's the end of the public session, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having Zoom because my road's like Crisco.
Sean Erickson was in my office today. Maybe he should have been plowing the roads in Brandon.
No, I haven't seen him on my road this year.
Sign that one.
All right, Kelly, I'm booting you off.
Yay!
What is the?
I'll see you later.
Adjourned at 7:28.